has come to my attention that I made a mistake. Ironically, it's a good mistake. I didn't know that those even existed. What's going on with your big dog? And it is an amazing Thursday. I hope you are having an amazing Thursday yourself. And if you aren't, don't let little mistakes happening in the beginning of the day ruin your Thursday. Speaking of mistakes, I actually have to address one. On the last tier list that we did, our rogue tier list, yeah, there's a mistake that's kind of big, kind of small, but it's actually kind of cool. So my thought process originally on making the rogue tier list is to get some underserved decks that aren't necessarily played a lot and then talk about them. That's not how everyone sees rogue. Rogue to a lot of people doesn't just necessarily mean decks that aren't played as much. You gotta talk about that underdog, the deck that actually has people rooting for its side, but may not be noticed and may not be considered really good. So the mistake about that is that I actually put some strategies in the rogue tier list that are a lot higher than rogue. The good thing is that they're a lot higher than rogue. I will be sure to put genuine rogue decks in the actual rogue tier list, decks that are not on the meta tier list so you get more variety. With that being said, we have to do a meta tier list post Burst of Destiny. We have some exciting strategies that are introduced in Bode and some strategies that get a lot stronger just because of other strategies being introduced. I am stupid excited to go over these strategies. There's gonna be some strategies that you're gonna be like, I didn't know it was that good, but I will explain. So without further ado, let's jump on into that tier list so we can talk about how this meta is gonna shape up to be post Burst of Destiny. All right, big dog, you know exactly how we roll with this meta tier list post Burst of Destiny and of course, Maximum Gold, November 2021. Of course, we have 5 different categories. Meta Changer are these strategies that are tier 1, but you would say slightly above tier 1 as they dictate how the Yu-Gi-Oh format is being played. Then you go to tier 1 decks. These decks are extremely strong and can compete with the Meta Changers. Tier 2s are the decks right below tier 1. They're still really strong, but don't necessarily have the counters to combat the Meta Changers or aren't necessarily as good as tier 1. Then, of course, there's the rogue strategies. We have a rogue tier list that I will be making again to include the strategies that aren't necessarily in this tier list. I know there's a lot of strategies like Paleo and Infernoate that people want me to talk about, and I'll do another rogue tier list shortly. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, oh no, what are you doing, baby? If you're playing these strategies, well, you're giving your opponent a bye. So starting off, Burst of Destiny is going to be a really important set for us, mainly because it does introduce a ton of new concepts. It introduces a couple of good decks and gives strength to some strategies that weren't necessarily seen as powerful before. With that being said, I'm going to have to put Dinos in that tier 2 status. Nani? Dinos back at it again? Dinos are actually extremely strong, and they get a little bit stronger with Burst of Destiny through a card called Small World. Small World helps the Dino strategy allow them to search Misk, which is why the deck went to obscurity once it went to 1. But even without Small World, if I told you that Dino was anything less than tier 2, I'm sorry, at that time, I know what I was talking about. Dino is an extremely good strategy, especially since we're moving away from links. Being able to flip all of your opponent's monsters face down with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, meaning that they have to address that card, but the Misk does come in for protection. This deck is too strong. Again, Burning Abyss is a very solid rogue deck into this Yu-Gi-Oh format. Trap cards are extremely good, and being able to make Divine Arsenal AA Zeus fits up Dante's category. I want to highlight a few cards that are extremely good in the format that are traps, one being Solemn Strike, the other being Torrential Tribute. Well, of course, you do main Solemn Strike inside of Burning Abyss, as Solemn Strike is a great going first and going second card. But cards like Torrential Tribute, Fiend Griefing, Karma Cut, Paleozoic Dynamiscus can essentially be searched with Burning Abyss. All we have to do is send cards from their deck to the graveyard and reach an Absolute King back Jack. Since we are in a grindy type format where the combo decks don't necessarily put Omni Negates on the side of the field, Burning Abyss can really thrive inside of this format. Adamantipator, I think, is a solid tier 2 deck. This deck really does rock. Now, the reason why I'm moving Adamantipator down a little bit is because I expected hand traps to be a little more prevalent, but players are starting to move towards playing those really good cards like Lightning Storm, Forbidden Droplet, Forbidden Chalice, and that actually, if you ask me, is the correct way to play Yu-Gi-Oh right now, because those one interaction hand traps don't always do what you need to do, but a Lightning Storm, when your opponent doesn't have Omni Negates, That's big brain. That can win you the game. With that being said, Adamantipator can make its boards a lot easier, but the problem with that is that now since players are not playing hand traps to interact with you, your board can actually get broken a little bit easier with cards like Forbidden Chalice and Forbidden Droplet and whatnot. I still think that this is a solid as rocks deck that will rock your world if you decide to play it. Next is Invoked Shuttle Dogmatica. I actually decided to separate Invoked Despia and Shuttle. We're going to put the Invoked as Invoked Shuttle Dogmatica. This is almost a meta changer deck, guys. Shuttle Invoked is probably one of the strongest decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. But I'm going to go ahead and put it as tier 1 because I don't think that players have felt the impact of Invoked Shuttle right now. The reason why this deck is so powerful is because of the exact same reason why it's always been powerful. Shuttle Winda. We're moving into a format where players want to special summon a ton of monsters. See Sword Soul needing to special summon at least 3 times to make a synchro monster. Look at Drytron and all the times that they want to special summon. Virtual World can struggle if they don't draw that Virtual World Gate Xinglong. And while BBW is at least affected, well, Shuttle still plays cards to be able to out their situations. This is a very, very, very solid deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, and I think it's borderline meta changer to tier 1. Altergeist is a very, very, very solid tier 2 deck. I said that we were transitioning for a format where cards like Forbidden Droplets and Forbidden Chalice and Lightning Storm are good, but the thing about Altergeist is that it doesn't care about those cards, mainly because it plays 4 copies of Imperial Order. There's your 1 copy of Imperial Order, and then your 3 Secret Village of the Spellcasters that you could play in the main board. You can even play anti-spell fragrances on top of that to ensure your opponent won't be able to activate those powerful spell cards. That, and since Monster Negation is still king in Yu-Gi-Oh! Infinite Impermanence plus Multi-Faker is still a FTK pretty much, as not only do you get to put your opponent at a disadvantage, you can start your engine at the same time. Beat Troopers is going to be another solid tier 2 deck, guys. People are sleeping on the bees, but this deck is the bee's knees. The reason why Beat Trooper actually got better from Burst to Destiny isn't all of the support. Unfortunately, the fusion monster it's trash at best, and the other monster in Flapper is not good. But the Beat Trooper common monster, the 1600 attack monster, is actually a lot better than what people think. And Heavy Beat Trooper, the big bug, oh my god. Have you ever played around Nibiru? Oh, yes. I think it's taking a little longer for players to figure out Beat Troopers because it wasn't an OCG import deck. This is by far the strongest TCG exclusive deck that we've had in a very long time. Beat Trooper summons monsters like Beat Trooper Invincible Atlas, which doesn't look necessarily powerful at first, but it can't be targeted and it can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and can summon Beat Troopers from your deck, something that we already know that the Beat Trooper strategy is just going to keep getting more of. Penguins are going to be our first meta changer. I can't lie to you. I want to say Penguins are good. I really want to. I want to tell you that Penguins are going to dominate the meta, but they're actually going to be our first. Oh no, what are you doing, baby? I'm sorry, man. I really wish that Penguin squad would stand up. I do think that Burst of Destiny did get it some nice support. It put it in the right direction, but unfortunately, it's not enough. It's more than likely going to get crushed by every single... Actually, it pretty much should get crushed by every single one of these decks when you look at it card for card. Cyber Dragon is a very good rogue Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategy. I have to put the emphasis on rogue. The Cyber Style Structure deck does give Cyber Dragon support, but what Cyber Dragon actually needs is another good Cyber Dragon monster, like a level 4 Cyber Dragon monster with 500 attack. That's all we need. That's all you need. Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to have another Exceed or something like that. But seriously, Cyber Dragon is on the cusp of being a tier 2 or even tier 1 deck. It just needs more support. It's a little bit dated, but still being able to play around monsters in the extra monster zone and links like Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess is still good. It's just becoming less and less important as we're moving towards fusion and synchro summoning, as well as away from link summoning. Ignister is going to be... I want to put Ignister as solid rogue. So Ignister's in a really weird spot because, again, it does make a huge Cleefort Towers-like monster. A monster that your opponent sometimes can't overcome. But where Ignister really struggles is that it can't... I don't want to say it can't consistently do it because it's a one-card combo, but it's like... It's just so much against Ignister right now. I know that I said hand traps are not necessarily prevalent, but a right hand trap could ruin Ignister's day. Players are really skeptical of the strategy to see how it would perform, and I hope that I'm actually proven wrong. And if you guys think that I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me which strategy you think needs to be deserved where and where I am wrong. I love to see you guys' opinions on things. Despia is, man, I'm going to go ahead and make a leak of faith and say that the support for Despia is going to put them in the tier 2 status. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it puts them in the tier 2 status, and here's why. Despia can take advantage of both the Invoked and Shaddoll engines, and that's what makes it good. In a format where Shaddoll Winda is good, well, I mean, just splash the Shaddoll package or splash the Dogmatica package so you can play it inside of Despia, and that's what bring it into its tier 2 status. Also, the support for Despia looks secretly good, and Stained Glass of the Valiant, I can't remember its TCG name, but if I remember correctly, it says if you control Fairy and Fiend monsters, you can draw cards and force your opponent to discard, is not a terrible Yu-Gi-Oh card. Zombie World, guys. I think Zombie World is probably the upper echelon rogue decks. I think that it could definitely be low tier 2 / rogue. And the reason why is because it really messes up really bad BBW and Sword Soul, 2 decks that are extremely good. It also can pretty mess up really bad Fluundereeze. But where Zombie World really struggles against is that Zombie World doesn't necessarily affect all decks. And you're going to need another card like Super Polymerization. And also the deck is fairly fragile. There needs to be more Zombie World support cards for the deck to take that leap of faith to get to the next tier. On the other hand, Eldritch by itself, oh man, Eldritch is a tier 2 deck. I want to say that Eldritch is like tier 1. If at worst, Eldritch is a high tier 2 / tier 1 deck because we've moved back into a control format, and Eldritch just plays that grind game really well. Eldritch is also a strategy that can incorporate Zombie World inside of the deck if it need to be able to combat BBW and Sword Soul and some of those other archetypes. You don't necessarily have to play Zombie World in your Eldritch deck. The 20 trap, 30 trap Eldritch deck does just fine, but if you really want to throw off your meta, which just so happens to have those strategies, if it does, then Zombie World definitely works for you. I'm going to say that heroes are solidly at that tier 2 status. Despite the rogue tier list, me telling you that they're not worth it, I still don't think heroes are worth it because of its price tag. But if everything came common for hero, I think it'd be a very solid tier 2 deck. Masked Hero Darklaw does punish the opponent from banishing, and we're moving more towards a format where you don't necessarily need all of the negates in the world. You just need to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Past turn 1, and that's something that Hero can very much do, having instant access to OTK cards, and now even getting a new fusion monster in Destiny in Phoenix Enforcer. I'm like 1000% confident I butchered that card's name. I keep thinking of Destiny in Dragoon. Now, Pure Shaddoll, that's exactly what Construct is going to stand for, is into the rogue status. And the reason why Pure Shaddoll is in the rogue status is because the trap cards are really good, but the trap cards are probably better suited for, like, Eldritch, Altergeist, Burning Abyss. Trap Shaddoll isn't bad. It's just your trap cards could probably be better served in a different deck. Moving forward, the new Evil Twin strategy got some support from the Burst of Destiny. Do I put it as tier 1? I think that tier 1 just might be a stretch. I think it's better suited in the tier 2 category. So the problems with Evil Twin has still remained the same. If you're able to prevent them from going into their Evil Twin Link monsters, then you pretty much win the game. Now, is that always possible? No, sometimes it opens the cracked hand, they have the extender, and it can keep playing. And you better prepare for trouble and make it double with this deck, because yeah. But the thing that I love is that Evil Twin Trouble Sunny definitely does help the deck going forward, allowing you to spell summon both Link monsters to your side of the field and gain destruction and a draw, and giving you some plays going forward in the graveyard, but allowing you to use your Link monsters. I think that this is going to be a very, very solid tier 2 deck that could potentially be in that border between tier 1 and tier 2, just like Eldritch, but on the flip side, as it's tier 2 looking to tier 1, and Eldritch maybe tier 1 looking down to tier 2. Fluundereeze. Where exactly do I put Fluundereeze? I'm going to put it as a tier 1 strategy. I'm going to go ahead and take a leap of faith and say that Fluundereeze is a tier 1. Yes, Fluundereeze does have issues, and the main issue is going to be getting into its important cards. It is relying on getting into one card. Fortunately enough, cards like Pot of Desires and Pot of Prosperity Pot of Duality and Pot of Prosperity can be played inside of the deck at maxed out. And also being able to survive past hand traps, which I don't think that Fluundereeze has a terrible time. Cards like Book of Moon allow you to flip your Fluundereeze monster face down, dodging Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, and then of course Cross Out Designator if hand traps are very prevalent, allow you to stop your opponent. Regardless, Fluendaries probably is the strongest deck to use Dimensional Shifter, and it uses it well. That card literally shuts out almost every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck in existence right now and allows you to do your Fluendaries things. The most important thing is that Rise of the Mega Monarch can follow to cycle back. Yeah, I don't want to see that happening. Grin Maju is, oh man, I want to put it at tier 2, but I'm going to go ahead and stick it at Rogue. This is probably the second strongest strategy to use Dimensional Shifter. Making a huge Grin Maju that doesn't care about whatever negate your opponent slams on the field is also really good. Do not sleep on this deck. I'm going to go ahead and put Unchained in the Rogue status as well. I feel that Unchained should be in our Rogue tier list as opposed to the meta tier list because it's one of those underdog decks, but it is a fan favorite. The Unchained strategy works off of being destroyed. The only problem with that is that decks may be able to destroy a little bit more than the Unchained wants. I think that Unchained Abomination is still a terribly powerful card, and it is a deck that can use Dimensional Shifter. I just think that the best deck to use Dimensional Shifter right now is Fluendaries. Moving forward, Ice Jade is another, oh no, what are you doing, baby? I mean, look, I hate to rag on archetypes, but Ice Jade actually looks like something that would be better suited being played inside of Mermel as an engine. I don't really see Ice Jade making any impact right now. I do think that it's a very fun looking deck. It's a cool looking deck, but as far as competitive meta Yu-Gi-Oh, this ain't it, dog. This ain't it. Oh man, everybody has complained about where is it for Infernal Knight? Where is Infernal Knight? Is it a tier 1 deck? No, I do think that it is a very, 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 very solid tier 2 deck. This deck can still make some really, really awful looking boards. Like, oh man, they're just disgusting. The problem is, again, we're moving into Forbidden Droplets, Dark Ruler no more, Lightning Storm. The good thing about this is that this deck can actually address cards like that. Herald of Arclight prevents your opponent from sending cards from the field to the graveyard with Droplets. And since it does have Omni negates that this deck can summon like Borreload Savage Dragon, then yes, it can deal with cards like Lightning Storm and whatnot. Another very solid tier 2 deck, I'm going to have to put Lyrilusk in that category. We have a ton of good tier 2 decks, meaning that the meta is fairly balanced. I think that these decks can actually win events or top events going forward. So I think that having these in here is just really, really good. So many amazing tier 2 decks. Lyrilusk makes Utopia Lightning in their Lyrilusk monster, which is like bounce 3 of your opponent's special summon monsters. That's disgusting. But where this deck kind of fails at is that Drolden Logbird is really popular right now, and yeah, that's not good for them. And Nibiru is also a card that's fairly popular right now, and that's not good for them either. It does have ways to play around those two cards, but until I see some more evidence, I don't think that this will be able to keep up with the tier 1 big dogs, especially seeing that this tier 1 big dog kind of like floodgates special summon heavy decks. Earth Machine is a rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I know I want to put it at Meta Changer, boy. All my Earth Machine boys, get down below. Let me know about Earth Machine being that god Yu-Gi-Oh deck. But unfortunately, that's not the thing right now. So I do like Earth Machine in the format where Shaddoll Invoked does exist, because Machina Fortress allows you to summon itself, ignoring pretty much Winda, and then you attack over the Winda and you force them in a bad situation. But ultimately, the Earth Machine matchups don't feel extremely favorable just overall. It is a very fun deck, very powerful deck. I just don't feel comfortable in putting it in tier 2 and higher. Modoshe are another solid, oh man, yes. Didn't this deck get stronger Burst of Destiny? I can't think of anything. It got Small World. Small World helps them search a little better. And seeing that we are in a format where it's just break my board, not break my board how it used to be where we summon 1,000,000 negates. Break my board as in, yes, I'm going to take that challenge. I'm going to break your board. This is another deck that can use Dimensional Shifter, though I still don't think it's stronger than Fluendaries. I think that Modoshe is in a very, very solid spot. Now, Magikey, my apologies. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Oh no, what are you doing, baby? Right now. Magikey, unfortunately, its combo literally is just outshined by Cupid Pitch, because Cupid Pitch almost does the exact same combo, but better. Like, it's just better. There's no way around it. It's just better. And you could play Cupid Pitch inside of your deck, but you're already playing way too many bricks inside of Magikey. I do think that this deck still has tons of potential. It has an amazing Synchro monster. It got an amazing Exceed monster, I believe. So this deck, I really want to say that I'm wrong and put it in Rogue, but for right now, what are you doing, baby? We haven't gotten to the Meta Changer Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and I'm going to go ahead and say that Drytron, that would be bold for me to say that Drytron is tier 1, not Meta Changer. I think we can go ahead and say Drytron is... I'm going to go put Shuttle in or Invoked into Meta Changer and Drytron into tier 1. And the reason why I say this is because this deck can kind of like, it determines that these decks are tier 1. It kind of keeps those special summon heavy decks into tier 2, and it makes you address cards with cards like Forbidden Droplet and Forbidden Chalice. I think that would be fair. That would be a hot take, but I'm just going to go ahead and put this... I'm very conflicted on how I want to do this, because if this is here, then this has to be here. And if this is here, then this has to be. Help me, guys. What do you think? Do you think that it should be like this? Or do you think it should be like this? Because Drytron still is a very, very, very well-respected and powerful Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It makes all of those negations that are just really, really hard to deal with. Because of the Reptilian support, Ogdotic did get better, but unfortunately, it is still an, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Players have caught on to how Ogdotic works. They realize that the Ogdotic monsters, the best Ogdotic monsters, give you benefits, which is something you never want to do. Anytime I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And my opponent plays cards that gives me benefits, I love it. I love it. Especially if it's like draw cards and special summon monsters to your side of the field. Thank you. And that's what keeps Ogdotic in the oh no category until you can take advantage of that. Prank Kids are a very, very, very solid tier 2 type deck. Can't wait for Brave Token to come out to make this deck a little bit better. But Prank Kids Meow Meow Mew being limited to 1 does hurt this deck's ability. Rocket Dragon Link, guys. Where are we going to put Rocket Dragon Link? This is tier 1. Hands down, this is tier 1. This is tier 1. This is post Burst of Destiny, pre-Burst of Destiny, pre-Burst of Destiny. This is a tier 1 Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Look, Seal, Tiding is still the bee's knees, okay? Hot Red Dragon, Seal, Tiding, oh my god, scoop now. But what makes this strategy just so damn good isn't necessarily its setup, it's the fact that Rocket Dragon Link has shifted from combo to mid-range, and it can just keep playing with Chaos Space and Starlead Zephyr being able to recycle its resources. I can't wait to try out the new cards for Burst of Destiny, but to be honest with you, I think that's going to be more geared towards casual, and Rocket Dragon Link is going to look somewhat the same post Burst of Destiny. Maybe place in the Destiny Hero engine, maybe not. Solomon Great is a very, very, very solid rogue deck, guys. Very solid rogue deck. And again, it's because hand traps aren't necessarily as impactful as some of those spell cards that we've talked about, and evenly matched and stuff like that. And while the Solomon Great strategy doesn't necessarily lose to like Forbidden Droplets and stuff like that, your hand traps don't do really, like, you need to open a shit ton of hand traps to stop your opponent's turn. So you get put in that spot, and then your board gets addressed easily. Solomon Greats are definitely in a better spot now than before, because, well, I mean, probably not, because people are maining Nibiru as their hand trap. Like, so to sidetrack, Nibiru and Infinite Impermanence are probably the best hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. And while Infinite Impermanence doesn't necessarily kill Solomon Great, you know what the Rock does. It doesn't feel good. Same thing with Sky Strikers. I think it's in a very solid spot. Rogue is actually a compliment. I don't know why people, when I put stuff in Rogue, they're like, oh, no, it's a compliment. Rogue is, especially when we're saying meta tier list, it doesn't mean that the deck is underpowered. It doesn't mean that the deck is going to be hit by the ban list. It's literally a nice happy medium. Whereas tier 1 and meta changer, you better start looking for another deck come ban list, just in case. You never know. Sky Striker is really good. It's going to lose to Imperial Order, which players are starting to play a lot more of. Anti-Spell Fragrance is another thing that hurts. Those two cards are going to take a skilled Sky Striker player, like what we said with our Rogue tier list, to be able to combat. So Sky Striker isn't necessarily from everybody. Speedroids, I wanted to put it in tier 2. I thought it was going to be a lot better. Then I thought it was going to be tier 1. But the problem with Speedroids is, so it does have a lot of playability, but the boards that you make are just... Double Crystal Wing seems good until, you know, your opponent just starts playing spell cards. You're like, I can't stop those. So I really want to put this at Rogue, especially since the deck, it's consistent, but it's like, sometimes. It's still a really, really solid deck. I want to put it at tier 2, but I think Rogue is best suited for it. Subterra is any other Rogue deck. I'm so sorry, Kana. Don't kill me. Don't kill me, Kana. You know I love you. You my dog, Kana. Don't kill me. And I still need my Gozens, and I still need my Harpy Queens. Like I love you, Kana, but Subterra doesn't necessarily do anything better than other trap decks. Like Subterra isn't better than Eldritch because Subterra will auto lose to Lightning Storm unless they have, you know, Solemn Judgment. Eldritch can actually still play through Lightning Storm as you get the Eldritch cards in your graveyard. You can keep on cycling. Altergeist is a better deck because it won't lose. Like you literally can play cards so you won't lose to Lightning Storm, and that leaves Subterra in a really interesting spot. The Destiny Hero engine may help. Kana's always cooking something for Subterras to make them better, and I gotta commend her. But for right now, I'm gonna put them in Rogue. I don't think that they can do much. Sword Soul will be one of the best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Instant meta changer in the Yu-Gi-Oh! So the reason why players are saying that Sword Soul isn't as good in the TCG and OCG, and you might have a point, is because other decks were hit, so Sword Soul can shine. But we're in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Format where decks are really fair and balanced. Sword Soul doesn't necessarily do anything overly busted, but not really any deck except for Drytron kind of does anything like way too over the top. Sword Soul looks like a combo. Well, actually, it's a mid-range deck. It can play in that grind, but also has the combo potential to put those synchros on the board to win the games. You got to watch out for Sword Soul. Cards like Ghost Ogre, Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler, stuff like that does hurt the deck, Nibiru and such, but Sword Soul just has the ability to keep on playing forward, making it a really good deck. Phantom Knights are tier 1. That's where I'm literally, when I seen my man Julio play this deck, I was like, why did I ever put that in Rogue status? God, I felt stupid. And that's why I was like, I had to rethink life when my man got top 4 with Phantom Knight. Shout out to him. And I'll try my best to link his YouTube and profile if I remember. But go ahead and check him out. Show him some love. He's really good with Phantom Knights. But he essentially, Phantom Knights are a tier 1 deck. Don't know why I ever doubted him. I've been saying Phantom Knights are a tier 1 deck for like at least 2-3 months, and everybody's like, oh no, you know, blah blah blah. And finally, when I say it's a high-end Rogue deck, it finally, like, I'm like, dog, come on now. So Phantom Knights are really good. Breaksword Breaksword's ridiculous. Being able to destroy a card, spell summon 2 monsters. Then your Fog Blades being able to negate cards on the field. Fun fact, you can use Fog Blade on your own monsters to prevent your opponent from attacking you, which can come up. It's just an amazing, incredible deck that only gets better because of Phoenix Enforcer. You guys should already know Tri-Brigade are still a meta changer tier 1 deck. It gets a little bit better with the Lyrilusk if you guys decide to play a bird up version with Barrel and the other stuff, being able to make free Zeuses for free. And then of course the Lyrilusk monster that can bounce multiple cards on your opponent's side of the field. That card's cracked. And Virtual World, I feel like Virtual World is going to lose its status as a meta changer soon. I still think it's a really good deck, but if I had to put it somewhere, it'll probably be in tier 1. That tweener between tier 1 and meta changer. So the reason why I think that Virtual World is going to lose its status is because, so it's actually the deck that gets better out of the tier 1 decks with Burst of Destiny. You can combine Sword Soul and Virtual World. The problem with Virtual World currently right now isn't even the bricks. The problem with Virtual World currently right now is that your inboard looks great, and then your opponent starts playing like cards to break it, and you're like, hold on, I can't even use any effects. I can't even pop off. Virtual World still, I'm going to put it in a meta changer because it still has the potential to be that amazing deck. In its best aspect that it had, hand traps pretty much not affecting the deck, is kind of wearing away with a lot of more players switching towards those other cards to be able to address boards rather than hand traps. But it's still really, really good. And that is all that I have for the meta tier list. I really hope you enjoyed. Now, I understand that you may have a different opinion on certain strategies. I want you to let me know all about them. I am passionate about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I love to see what you think about a certain strategy. Please tell me how much success you've had with a strategy and why do you think it deserves to be in a certain spot. With all that being said, you can also check out these videos as a big dog. Enjoy your Thursday. I'll catch you on the next one.